dark plans for the November election.
Democrats are pushing to make it available for all voters.
And reveals who's behind the rehearsals for a coup. Civil War, the way America can end in 2020. Tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern at blazetv.com/Glenn.
Michael Anton, the author of The Stakes, former national security official and senior fellow at the Claremont Institute. I thought he was also, a fellow at Hillsdale College as well. Welcome to the program, Michael Anton. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Great to be back.
I want to talk to you about the latest article that you wrote in the American Mind about the coming coup. I have come to exactly the same conclusion, and it's really not hard if you pay attention and you know what to look for, right?
Well, and the data points just pile up every day.
Every day.
They say something new that makes it obvious this is the plan, and also a pointed lack of denials. Usually, now, if I were plotting something nefarious, or if I were, put it this way, if I were not plotting something nefarious and somebody accused me of it, I'd be pretty hot and quick with my denials.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would attack the people accusing me of it as saying, you're lying, right? They're not doing that. They're silent on this point. And I'm not the only person talking about it. I mean, if you watch, for instance, Tucker Carlson's show last night, Darren Beattie, a former White House speechwriting colleague of mine, was on the air talking about it. Where are the rebuttals? Where are the denials? Where, we're not getting them. And I think it's because they know that this is the plan, and they don't want to put on record quotes that can be used against them when the operation starts going into effect. That is to say, if you're saying absolutely under no circumstances will we do this in September, and then you start doing it in November,
right?
You've complicated the program because those quotes can be thrown back in your face. And so they're just being quiet about it.
And I think another reason why they're being quiet about it and not responding is they don't want any more attention coming to it, because if you know what's going on, you expect it, you see it, and you won't be wrapped up in it. You won't make the stupid mistakes that they are expecting. But let's start with what you say. It started with a military brass quietly indicating that the troops should not follow a presidential order. Let's start there with you.
Back when the issue arose of whether the president should invoke the Insurrection Act, the military brass made it known that they did not favor that option. And the Secretary of Defense in particular said on the record that he didn't. Now, if you disagree with the president, your boss, the honorable and normal, or used to be normal way to do it is you do it in private, and if you get overruled, you either follow the order or you resign.
Correct.
Right? You don't go out and say publicly, I disagree, which is a tantamount to saying to the president, don't give that order because we won't follow it, right? I found that extraordinary. I don't know of another example. I mean, you have to go back to maybe George McClellan being consistently insubordinate to Abraham Lincoln to find an example of that, it seemed to me.
Yeah, and this is really important. As I'm going to lay out tonight, I'm going to show you 3 different paths to this, but they're all the same. And one is from the State Department on the color revolutions of Europe. The Obama State Department showed, they put together a way to overthrow. And one of the pillars, as they call them, is you have to break up. If you can't get the military, you have to break the police and the military up. So part of them, they won't be in lockstep. They can't come down because they'll be fighting against themselves.
Well, there's a distinction here, I think, between a color revolution and a coup. The end point is the same. You want to throw out a leader that you don't like, whether that person was elected legitimately or not. But the means are different. And I think the preference is always for the color revolution when that can be accomplished, because the color revolution can be spun as peaceful and nonviolent and even quasi-democratic. Mm-hmm. It's just the people rising up and peacefully taking to the streets and objecting and so on and so forth, right? A coup is when the military or some armed security force has to step in and force it, which means that the color revolutionary tactics were insufficient. I think we're still in color revolution phase now, right? And it's unclear whether the military or other armed agencies of the federal government would go along with a coup attempt. One encouraging data point is that when all of this stuff was being talked about, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs came out and said that the military will play, quote, no role, unquote, in the November election. I hope he sticks to that, and I hope all of the officers under his command, or at least under him in the chain of command, follow that. We don't know. Right now, though, it looks like the hope is, get to November. Maybe Trump looks like he's winning on election night, but then say, no, we have to wait for all these mail-in ballots. It's going to be a week or a month or however long, but we guarantee Biden's going to win. Fill the streets, shut down the country, unleash the lawyers, tie up any unfavorable, that is unfavorable to Democrats, state result in the courts, and litigate, all the while dragging this out and making hopefully, they think, and also using their dominant control of the media and social media to blare the message that Trump lost, he's illegitimate, it's time for him to go. And I also expect that sometime on the night of November 3rd, after or as soon as the media narrative becomes Trump lost, Twitter, Facebook, and everybody will shut down the president's social media accounts and say he's illegitimate, he's trying to stay in illegitimately, therefore we're justified in doing this. And I don't know at that point how the president continues to communicate with the American people and with his core supporters, but it's something that I hope he and his top aides are thinking about right now.
I have to tell you, I have war gamed this. I didn't even think about shutting down the president, but I think you're exactly right. And then the next thing they have to do is shut down people like us who can speak out against it. Well,
I mean, in a way, this has been the plan for a long time. If you go, you go back far enough and you do research into this kind of stuff, as I do, or in some cases forced to do, to read things I otherwise wouldn't want to read, you can find philosophers and prominent intellectuals on the left as 50 years ago, 60 years ago, saying that there shouldn't be any protections for authoritarian or right-wing speech, right? And now that was considered a fringe idea. Let these guys in the ivory tower say what they want, but we're the United States of America and we have freedom and all that. It takes a while for these radical ideas to work their way into the mainstream and become policy, but they tend to get the last laugh. We laugh when these things are proposed, and then we're stunned to find a couple of decades or longer later that they're being taken seriously and even enacted. And so now it's a very mainstream opinion on the left that there has to be speech regulations. I can remember being in college in the late 80s and early 90s when the campuses were talking about speech codes, and they were roundly smacked by intellectuals and in some cases even court challenges for violating the First Amendment. Now, these things are completely mainstream ideas on the left, and I think when the left has power, when and if they gain total power, they will enact them. And it's something to be very, very worried about.
I want to break for just a minute, and I want to come back, and I want to talk to you about the Democratic, or I should say the left organizations that have gotten together over the summer and actually leaked this to the press, a meeting of some of they say it's the largest collection of the left ever, and they were gaming out the outcomes of the 2020 election. John Podesta was there, the White House for Bill Clinton chief of staff. This was funded by George Soros. And it's really terrifying what they are saying. And I want to go over that with you here in just a second. Give me 60 seconds and we're back. Don't forget, this special airs tonight. You don't want to miss it. I'm telling you, we only have a few weeks to prepare. They have prepared. You have to not only know it, but on tomorrow's program, we are going to be talking about, so what do you do? But please, please tell a friend. Watch this. Invite your neighbors over. Whatever you have to do. Anyone like-minded needs to be watching this tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. We continue our conversation here in just a second. First, let me tell you about Simply Safe. Home security is now more important than ever. All around the country, people are destroying property, burning our cities down, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. There's a certain mindset that comes with rioting and looting. It's the mindset shared by the guy casing your house and thinking, well, when you're not around, I mean, if you can't protect your stuff, I can take whatever I want. The world owes me. That mindset's not going away. Simply Safe will make it easy and affordable to have the best home security on the market. State-of-the-art equipment, round-the-clock monitoring makes Simply Safe the first name in the business. Not only will they get police there the fastest, if there is not police, if they don't show up, you're going to be alerted immediately, and you'll know what's happening in your own home so you can get to safety or prepare yourself to make sure nobody is threatening your family. 50 cents a day for monitoring. It's a no-brainer. Head to simplysafebeck.com. Get a free HD security camera. That's simplysafebeck.com. Make sure you let them know that we sent you. It's simplysafebeck.com. 10-second station ID. Former national security official in the Trump administration, author of The Stakes, a new book that is out, senior fellow of the Claremont Institute, Michael Anton, is here talking about the coming coup, or as I would say, the revolution that is so well organized. So talk to me about this big meeting, where they got the money, who was there, and what they did.
It's not entirely clear where they got the money, although there are reasons to believe that at least some of it came from Soros, and certainly one of Soros's leading lieutenants was one of the leaders of this operation, which they kind of Orwellianly call the Transition Integrity Project, when the whole point of it is the precise opposite, to undermine the integrity of the transition.
Correct.
They were there essentially to find ways to ensure that Joe Biden becomes president, whether electorally or by other means, in January of 2021, and to think through ways of conceiving the propaganda message, basically to lie to the American people about what happened and how it happened. Now, of course, one of the scenarios they gamed out is a legitimate Joe Biden victory, which, for all any of us knows, could happen. But it's clear that they're not putting all their eggs in that basket. They want him to be president, whatever the outcome, electorally. And so the purpose of this meeting was to figure out a way to make that happen, and then a way to tell the American people that it all happened legitimately, and whatever you might have seen with your lying eyes, Donald Trump lost, and this is the right thing to do. And if, for instance, if Trump has said, he's been asked, are you just immediately going to accept the results? And he says, I don't know, we'll see. And everyone screams and hollers and says, that shows that he wants to stay past his elected term. No, all he's saying is, I'm not going to immediately accept the results if I see evidence of fraud or if there's some irregularities. I'm going to want to know what happened. And, we'll see. Al Gore didn't immediately accept. Actually, he did. He conceded Florida in 2000, and then he retracted his concession.
Correct.
And he tried to litigate that recount. Nobody criticizes Al Gore for not accepting the result, right? That's all the president said. I have every confidence that if the president legitimately loses in a way that's not challengeable, he will leave.
He'd leave. Hillary Clinton declared that Joe Biden should not concede the election under any circumstances.
Yes, easily the most chilling statement so far from this horrible year of 2020.
Correct.
And it has a lot of competition. I still think that one wins under any circumstances. So I think the idea is to, at a minimum, if there's a Biden blowout and it's obvious, then mission accomplished as far as they're concerned. If not, they want to create a circumstance of chaos and ambiguity where they can say, we won. We won. It doesn't matter that this result is disputed or that this is still being counted or whatever. We know we won. The same way Stacey Abrams, this is a harbinger for the future. She still goes around saying, I'm the legitimate governor of Georgia. She lost that race by 50,000 votes. That's not close. Florida in 2000 was 500 votes. So we're talking 2 orders of magnitude greater of a loss, and she still says she's the governor of Georgia. And everywhere she goes, leading Democrats from, I don't know if Joe Biden has said it, but Kamala Harris, his VP nominee, has said, Stacey Abrams is the legitimate governor of Georgia. Mm-hmm. They're trying to undermine and really destroy confidence in the electoral system so that no matter what the outcome, they'll say that if they lose, they say they won because of voter suppression or something. If they win, it's a win. Heads, they win. Tails, we lose.
And we were told crazy when, and I never believed this about President Obama. I thought if he lost, he would go away. But there were those that he's never going to leave office. He'll do a third term. He won't leave. No, he's not. But we were called all kinds of names. But over the summer, two former Army officers, prominent Democratic-aligned national security think tank kind of people, wrote an open letter to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which said what?
It said, be prepared to use, I think they named a unit, the 82nd Airborne Division, to forcibly remove the president in January. Now, I'm somewhat heartened that they got some pushback. They did get a few military people saying, why are you shouldn't talk like this. This is all private, but I'm also somewhat heartened that people have come to me, people who are not necessarily Trump partisans or strong Republicans or conservatives, some of whom fairly apolitical military types, and others, liberal academics, and have said, that's really disturbing, right? So I think that statement may have, gone too far, or at least been rhetorically unhelpful to their cause. At least that's what I'm hoping, and anecdotally, it's what I understand. But it certainly does explain the mindset. I mean, we've come to a point where democracy has been redefined. It no longer means a vote of the people and majority rules or a majority decision. Democracy means a certain set of liberal outcomes, however they're achieved. If they're achieved via a democratic vote, that's good. If the democratic vote goes the other way, then democracy, in quotes, is achieved through the courts, or it's achieved through regulation, or it's achieved through some other means. We get to the point where Michael McFaul, a former U.S. ambassador in Democratic administrations, says he was disparaging the term color revolution and called it, I forgot exactly, but he said something like, call it democratic action. So in other words, when people take to the streets, shut down a country and high-ranking institutions, plus with foreign interference, oust a democratically elected leader, according to McFaul, that's, quote, democracy, unquote, because the outcome was correct, not because of any legitimacy to the process.
There was a really frightening report that was leaked to identify key influencers in the media and among local activists who can affect political perceptions and mobilize political action that could establish the pre-commitments to playing a constructive role in the event of a contested election. In other words, find those people right now that will scream from the rooftops, Trump lost, Trump lost, Trump lost. This is a great article you need to read. It's by Michael Anton, author of The Stakes, a great book that you should read. This is In the American Mind, The Coming Coup.
Is the Glenn Beck program.
Thanks, Michael. And don't miss tonight's episode. There's a lot of homework for you to do, but we will try to have